Well, the U.S. Congress has finally approved long-awaited reforms for the International Monetary Fund. The reforms give developing countries a bigger voice in deciding the world body's policies. CCTV's Ryntjes reports from Washington, D.C.
The reforms to the governance structure of the International Monetary Fund were first approved back in 2010. They were enthusiastically promoted by the nation with the largest voting bloc, the United States. But the process was held up for 5 years because members of the US Congress would not ratify it.
That meant that when the U.S. sat at any G20, at any IMF meeting, at any of the global leaders in economic policymaking summits, that the first thing countries looked at was a U.S. government that didn't deliver on promises that it made. And it became an increasingly difficult dynamic.
As amended, which the clerk will...
Congressional approval finally came in a vote buried within a mountain of new laws contained in a budget bill.
Well, it means one of the major irritants in the geo-economic, international economic policy space for the last 5 years is apparently behind us.
The 2010 reforms shifted some of the voting power toward China, India, Russia and Brazil, with China gaining the most. Several European countries, along with South Africa, Saudi Arabia and the United States, gave up some of their authority. Some analysts believe China lost patience with the quota reform process, and that may have provided the impetus for the creation of the China-led lending institution, the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank.
Well, China, I mean, is unquestionably a big player, and you see that with they're creating their own bank that rivals the World Bank. I think that's part of the calculation that the Obama administration has made in supporting these quota reforms, is saying if we don't have an inclusive IMF, if we don't have an inclusive World Bank, a country like China is going to set up its own systems to rival it.
The IMF is obliged every 5 years to reassess the governance structure in order to be better attuned to changing global dynamics. So 2016 will usher in a new phase of complex IMF reform negotiations, which will again include pressure to expand the influence of emerging market nations. Ryntjes, CCTV, Washington.